Access to Democracy is made possible thanks to the following organizations. Sheridan & Dulas, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm that has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009. Sheridan & Dulas are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Distillery was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at their facility. If you're interested in learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check their website and plan a visit to tour their facility and taste their spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Welcome to another edition of Access to Democracy. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Bill Raker, your host for the program. Before I introduce the guests that we have with us, I want to introduce the theme of today's program. We're going to be talking about ethical, artificial intelligence, and leadership in the modern world. Now, that's a long title. It's got a lot embedded in it, but if there's any friends, family, or anyone around you that's interested in artificial intelligence and or leadership, invite them to join you and join us as we welcome Dwayne Dixon.
Bill, thanks so much. I'm very pleased to be here. Looking forward to our chat today.
Dwayne, it's our pleasure to have you and to bring such an interesting and timely topic to be talking about artificial intelligence and ethical behavior, ethical leadership in the same subject is really relevant. Dwayne, tell us a little bit about your background and your experiences and what brought you to where you are today in your career.
Sure. I have spent over 40 years in technology, sales, consulting, and leadership. Started many years ago at Xerox Corporation, was at Xerox twice as a matter of fact, spent a number of years at IBM, and most recently I was with Microsoft. And my last role at Microsoft was actually working with financial institutions on AI implementation and adoption. So I've been a tech wean for a very, very, very long time, and I've been riding kind of the wave of the different innovations that have come along. I was at IBM when the World Wide Web became a thing, and now finishing at Microsoft, the time just happened, and that's what I spent the most time doing.
Well, Dwayne, you have in your resume your experiences with companies here in our country that have had and continue to have a great impact on the development of technology and our culture itself. And so having that background and developing an interest in artificial intelligence really puts you in a position where you can make a difference in the modern lives of people today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure, and it's fun. It's always fun, yes.
Yeah, this program is really more of a conversation than it is an interview that tries to develop a point or to emphasize something that is worth a soundbite. We're beyond sound bites. We want to know the details. We want to get into the depths of things. And so let's start with you telling us what today's topic, what does that mean? Ethical artificial intelligence and leadership in the modern world.
What that ultimately means is that technology cannot drive decision making. Technology cannot drive outcomes by themselves. In other words, to make sure that technology makes sense for leaders, to make sure that technology makes sense for the general public, you've got to have guardrails around it to make sure that it serves the public good. Certainly, businesses are in the business of making money. But when we talk about the public good, we've got to put some guardrails around that to make sure that it doesn't go off the rails, quite frankly. So when we talk about technology, the way that we keep technology inside the guardrails, we put ethical boundaries around that. We put ethical guardrails to make sure we're using it properly and in a way that it doesn't become destructive.
Well, could you give us an example or two of the kind of guardrails you think the world we are living in and evolving into really require?
Oh, sure. I can give you some examples. Let's back up for a minute. One of the pieces, when we talk about ethical AI, one of the pieces that I uncovered is I had a chance to look at the ethical leadership principles from Harvard Business School. One of the most impactful things I ever did, I had an executive education seminar that I did at Harvard Business School on disruptive innovation. And out of that, I learned the ethical leadership principles as articulated by Harvard Business School. Those are respect, accountability, justice, honesty, service, and community. And those are principles that Harvard Business School has taught for a very long time. And that is really a grounding around how businesses should do business. Well, if we look at those and we agree that those are good things, I looked at the ethical AI framework from Microsoft. And Microsoft developed a framework for responsible AI, which were inclusiveness, accountability, fairness, transparency, privacy and security, reliability and safety. And what I learned was those map almost one-to-one. So if we can say to ourselves that, let's agree that ethical leadership is a good thing. How do we transpose that into AI? The mapping between the two are what make that happen. Now let's drill down into an example of that. Let's talk about justice. Ethical leadership is justice. The responsible AI corresponding principle is fairness. So if we connect those, what happens if we don't? In 2018, Amazon put together a recruiting algorithm. They were going to look at all the people that had been hired, and they were going to put together an artificial intelligence algorithm that says, we're going to scan all the resumes and find the best candidates based on people that we've already hired. Okay, that sounds good. Well, what ended up happening is because the technology employee population is so heavily male, the artificial intelligence decided that women were not good candidates. So what it ended up doing was any resume that had something referring to a woman, women's soccer club, women's debate club, women's anything, the AI rejected those resumes. So that's a case of AI not operating in a way that's in the public good. It's certainly not operating in a way that exemplifies justice. So that's just an example of how it can go off the rails and what we need to be really mindful of as we implement AI.
I think that's a great example, Dwayne. I'm glad you brought that forward. And as I listen to you talk about the guardrails for artificial intelligence, that's technology. The guardrails that you are describing that should be applied to artificial technology sound to me like the same kind of guardrails that should be assigned to business and to individual lives.
Absolutely.
Would you connect all of those?
Absolutely. Well, what's interesting about this, and we talked about this a little bit beforehand, in addition to being a technologist, I'm also an ordained minister. So what ended up happening is as I looked at the different things that I do and are engaged in, I'm also very, very engaged in mental health training. And I thought about if you're a technologist, you're a mental health practitioner, and you're a minister, where do the circles overlap? And ethics was the place that it overlapped. And I don't want to talk about religion. We don't want to go there. But just from a very basic standpoint, we can look at ethics being driven. And how do we incorporate ethics into the work that we do. One of the pieces of statistics that we've seen is Generation Z has said that it's important to them to go to work for companies that are ethical and that demonstrate ethics. They've made that into a decision-making piece about where they're going to go to work. If there's a company that doesn't exhibit ethical leadership, they're not going to go there. Well, guess what? That is the workforce of the future. If you want to get the best talent, you better be focused on ethics.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. You know, and you, if you're looking for a job and you're hoping to work for a company that has high ethical standards, you know, hopefully you find one. And when you have the opportunity to join that company, you discover that it's real, that their ethical standards are real, that it's not just something that they try to project as an image, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that has history. Let's go back a ways. One of the best examples of ethical leadership that we've ever seen, let's go back to the 80s with the Tylenol scare. Do you remember when Tylenol, we found cyanide in Tylenol?
Yeah.
What J&J did, what Johnson & Johnson did, is they pulled every vial of Tylenol off the shelves everywhere in the world at great cost. But they felt it was the ethical thing to do because, again, that was not in the public good that we had cyanide, and they didn't know how it got there, but they said, we're going to eat the cost of doing this because this is the right thing to do.
That's an example. Yeah. So where do you think artificial intelligence, based upon your experience and what you are observing today, where do you think artificial intelligence is taking us?
Artificial intelligence has the potential to do amazingly, amazingly wonderful things. In other words, when you can take a technology that can look at all of the x-rays of all of the cancer patients and all of the diagnoses every place in the world and examine that data at a granular level and potentially extrapolate patterns and potential cures, that's amazing. And that's artificial intelligence at its best. Now, that's artificial intelligence writ large. One of the things I like to tell people about artificial intelligence at the very personal level is I'm a communicator. And for me, artificial intelligence is the cure for the scariest thing in the world, which is a blank sheet of paper. So anytime you have a technology that you can say, ChatGPT or whichever one is your preference, give me a 5-bullet outline for a presentation that I have to deliver later today. And it'll give you an outline. Now, it may not be 100% right, but it will be more than you had. So let's talk kind of a big one that some people use. I've heard people talk about, here's my grocery list. Analyze my grocery list for calories, for protein, and for sugar, and make recommendations about what I should or should not buy next time around. People use AI for that kind of thing.
I hadn't thought of that, but I think I might try it. Well, you're talking about having artificial intelligence, and there are several versions of it out there that are available to consumers. Many of them have free usage up to a point, but if you want further capabilities, they have a subscription fee that varies significantly, I think. But you mentioned something about having artificial intelligence putting together an outline for you on a subject that you select. And you mentioned that it might not be 100% correct, which infers that humans still have to be smarter than artificial intelligence to know when artificial intelligence makes an error.
That's absolutely right. Well, it's funny. At Microsoft, the artificial intelligence product was called Copilot.
Oh, yeah.
And what I would tell customers all the time, it's Copilot, not autopilot. And that's what we always have to think about. As a matter of fact, one of the things when I speak to organizations and leaders, I say all the time, you cannot delegate final decision making or final ethics to a machine. Humans must be in the loop always.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So in your work, in your communications, when you're maybe talking, making presentations about artificial intelligence, or whatever the subject may be, but since we're on artificial intelligence today, what are some of the big challenges that you have in constructing and delivering an impactful message?
The most important thing, and I learned this a very long time ago, there is an acronym called WIFM, W-I-I-F-M. What WIFM stands for is what's in it for me.
Okay.
That is the question that you have to answer all the time. What's in it for me?
Yeah.
In other words, how will this benefit me? How will this make me more productive? How will this make me more money? How will this improve my life? And technology for technology's sake is never a winning proposition. You've got to take it and you've got to connect it to concerns that people have, to needs that people have. And that's the real challenge, and that's what you've always got to think about.
So it's about working and manipulating, if I can use that word in a positive sense, technology and the products of technology like artificial intelligence, using those things in productive and ethical ways.
That's right.
Rather than letting the technologies, that's what them refers to in this, letting the technologies influence you to the point of controlling your thoughts and your behavior.
Absolutely.
How do we put up a shield, just me, how do I put up a shield that helps protect me from falling under a bad influence of a bot or something that's out there in the technology world?
Just like you wouldn't outsource your personal decision making to another person, you can't outsource your personal decision making to a machine. We all have intrinsic knowledge. We all have intrinsic intelligence, and you have to consistently vet what you receive through that particular filter. In other words, does this make sense? Is this resonating properly, or is this a little bit out in left field? You have to always ask yourself those questions, and that's no different than what you do if somebody called you with a get-rich-quick scheme. You'd say, well, wait a minute, let me vet this against what I know about how the world works. And that's really the key to it. You cannot outsource, you cannot abdicate your responsibility for thinking and sound decision making.
Well, that's great advice. May not always be easy to follow.
Absolutely.
But if one can do that, there's a good chance that they're going to protect themselves from, well, let's just say the example of a scammer that's out there, right?
Exactly.
Because artificial intelligence has brought great capabilities and refinements to the strategies that the scammers, the fraudsters use, and it becomes increasingly difficult to identify a suspicious email or a suspicious text or phone call because of what artificial intelligence is doing in that area that works sort of against the consumer.
That's exactly right, and diligence becomes the key. Years ago, the Nigerian scammer, we saw that,
Yes.
and you had to be diligent. You had to spend a little more time evaluating what came across your desk, what came across your inbox. You have to be that much more diligent now. One of the things that corporations are doing is they're spending a great deal of time educating their employees to say, this is what a scam email looks like. This is what a spam email looks like. This is what a phishing email looks like. Well, we need to be just that more diligent in our own personal lives as well.
Well, Dwayne, let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that you are doing, some of the things that you have created that might be helpful for our viewers to use to maybe improve their lives, to put up this protective shield maybe that we're talking about. Now, our viewers will see on the screen as they're watching contact information for you and the work that you do. So what are some of the resources that you can make available or you have made available to people who want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the themes that you talked about today?
Sure. One of the things that I do is I have a series of trainings and workshops where we talk about ethical AI and also putting AI to work. One is called Thrive with AI. Another one is called Ethical AI and Leadership, where I actually walk organizations through some of the principles of ethical AI and also through some of the principles of just at a very basic level, how do you put AI to work? One of the things I learned a long time ago is that technology is not necessarily difficult, but sometimes people make it difficult. People make it difficult so they can be gurus, and it's really not. One of my superpowers is I kind of have an ability to take really complex concepts and make them very simple. And it's just like anything else. If someone cannot simplify it for you at a very basic level, keep pressing them until they can.
You know, learning and employing new technology, as you well know, requires a great deal of patience. And speaking from personal experience, I'm trying to move data from an old PC over to a new one. And when I don't see exactly what's happening on the new one that I expect, I get real frustrated and say, throw up my hands and say, forget it. And the secret is to stay with it.
That's right.
And to keep exploring and understanding bit by bit, if I can use that term in technology, right?
I saw what you did there.
What's actually going on. You can live a more useful and happy life.
Indeed, indeed. One of the keys is to not get frustrated. And that's what happens sometimes. It's like, wait a minute, it's confusing. I just don't want to do it. I just feel unempowered. Just forget it. No, you're not being graded. You're not going to fail. Just take your time at your own pace, and you'll get there.
And if you need some help,
ask for help.
Ask for it.
Ask for help.
It helps if you know where to go.
There you go.
To get the right kind of help.
That's exactly right.
You know, and maybe some of the things that you offer help people know where they can go to get various kinds of help.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've done a lot of that work with corporations. Folks have brought me in to have those conversations. But even if you don't work for a corporation, I know that there are various public resources available at community colleges and that kind of thing where, AI for dummies, you can go get that kind of information. Here's one that you can do. If you have access to a ChatGPT subscription or a Copilot subscription, you can ask it, explain yourself to me as though I were a third grader, and it will give you an answer to help you understand.
I'm going to have to try that.
Or a first grader,
yeah.
Or a kindergartner.
Whatever level you choose, a PhD candidate, I suppose, right?
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. I do that on a regular basis, quite frankly. I've done that with Bible verses to say, okay, exegete this, explain this scripture to me as though I were a college freshman. Okay, now explain it to me as though I were a fifth grader, and AI can do that.
So the better the technology, the algorithms and the machines, the better they get, and the more information that is fed into these machines and algorithms as a resource, the better they're going to be. What's the limit?
Wow. If I had that kind of crystal ball, I wouldn't have bought a lottery ticket yesterday.
But what do you think? What do you speculate? Just share with us a little bit of your thoughts.
This is what I will speculate. There is a concept called Moore's Law.
Yes.
Moore's Law means that a given amount of computing power at a given price is going to double every 18 months. Okay? So you're talking about exponential growth. And for example, storage capacity is getting a whole lot cheaper. Computers are getting a whole lot faster. There are some people that say we're going to get to something called artificial general intelligence, where AI is going to be smarter than the sum total of human intelligence. There's a lot of potential there, but that's also kind of frightening. And that's what makes it so important to exercise ethical principles as we develop these technologies, because what you don't want to do is create a genie that gets out of the bottle and you can't put it back.
Dwayne, there's a lot of authenticity in what you're talking about, authenticity in the work that you've done and that you continue to do. And you've been recognized many times and many occasions for your accomplishments. Share some of those with our viewers so that they get an idea of the depth of experience that you bring into this conversation.
You know, I've been invited to speak in a number of different places. Just 6 weeks ago, I did a talk at Washington University School of Business where we unpack these themes in a major way. I'll be participating in an AI conference at Grambling State University next week. The week after that, I'll be a part of a Twin Cities AI conversation, a half day, where we're going to be talking to a whole group of folks about AI. The week after that, I'll be at the Congressional Black Caucus Forum speaking on artificial intelligence. And then the month after that, I'll be at the Excel Conference for Men sponsored by Black Enterprise Magazine, again, opining on artificial intelligence. I've got a number of things happening. As a matter of fact, my book is under development. I have a book called Bridging the Code, Ethical AI at Work. That book should probably be out by next June. So these are the types of things that I'm working on. And it's been fun because people are responding, people are engaging, and people are learning. And that's really the name of the game.
With a schedule like what you have, Dwayne, I feel really lucky that I was able to book a little bit of your time to get you come talk with us, to our viewers, about what it is that you do. We've got a couple of minutes left, so let's try this. Is there something the everyday person might find really interesting or surprising about you or the work that you do? And can you bridge that to some final thoughts for our viewers?
Sure. What folks might find surprising or not, I mentioned before I'm an ordained minister and have been for the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, I serve on staff as an associate minister at Fellowship Baptist Church in Minneapolis. And, you know, I work there. I'm in the pulpit usually once a month, and I'm standing up the mental health ministry there. And people might be surprised at that. But again, it creates some really interesting intersections between mental health, technology, and ministry. And ultimately, I consider the work that I do with artificial intelligence, there's a component of ministry there because I'm kind of guided by a bit of a higher power and the ethics that drive me in that direction. So some folks might be surprised to see, well, how do those pieces come together? But they kind of make up the whole of what I am, and I've been very blessed.
Well, Dwayne, we've been blessed to have you on the program today. Thank you so much for the work that you do and for sharing your experiences and your knowledge with us. Thank you for being a guest on Access to Democracy, and we wish you ever success as you continue to work in the fields that you have chosen for your careers.
Bill, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to join you today.
And thank you for joining Access to Democracy. And remember, you can get more of Access to Democracy on our website, accesstodemocracy.com, and on YouTube. Thank you for joining us.